I love it. Yeah. Thanks, guys, for thanks for the heads up too, as far as your scenario, Andy. That's good.
Yeah,
Should be
working
good to go.
late.
Yeah. Cool beans, everybody. Cool beans. That's good. So now the last thing I got to do is just get my iPad going, and we'll be good to go. We'll just do that and start. I got to learn more about the Stuckey guy. I'm not familiar with him.
He's big in the Action Network, Dave. I don't know if you're into that.
Oh yeah, I go on that website. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
He actually does a really good college football podcast. Him and this other guy, they put it out every Friday. It's really informative. I like listening to it.
Cool. Okay.
John, do you still follow the Adon 7X guy?
I do. I should have unfollowed him for some of the takes he puts out.
He's
there.
very right. Yeah, his political thinking, I don't disagree. Or I don't agree with.
Yeah, no. Like I can handle people who are like politically conservative, but like he's so far like gone. It's not even. Yeah. Like he doesn't even put out. Yeah, he doesn't even put out like picks anymore. I might have to unfollow him. Like every once in a while, he sneaks one in there, but.
Yeah, he loves golf though, because he was on Koepka before Koepka was Koepka.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
He had some good angles back in the day.
Too bad. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. So I'll pot you guys down. Let's go. Doc Rivers continues to time and time again not get it when it comes to getting. Oh! Let him play!
You bet one bone to win 19. What site do you use where you can actually bet $1?
They let you do 50-cent bets.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah, literally, like he dropped Superman down like the drain, comes out. Like, God damn it, Superman! I don't know, honey. I don't know where he got that from.
From Los Angeles, this is Dave in the City,
Part of the DITCOW Sports Network.
Now, here's Dave Medina.
Good evening, sports fans, and a pleasure to have you here for the Big Football Show. Glad to have you all back with us and from the Dave in the City studios at the home of champions, Southern California. And tonight we've got a full house with us. We have Ron back on the program joining us on the air. So it's great to see him back in the mix, and we're going to try to keep it going with the football picks. Wasn't the greatest of weeks for us as a panel, but we'll try to do better this time around. But a lot of action to talk about here as we start the program tonight. And I thank you for joining us a little later than normal this evening. You know, it's been a day, and I will tell you, it's. I think. I coupled it all together, and we're ready to go. So this should be really fun. Let's not waste any more time. I mean, I could do some nice stuff, some setup and everything else, but honestly, I just want to get to talking about these games. You got your top 25. You've got the college football playoffs. Cincinnati still in the mix. You've got Oregon. You know, still not losing a game after a while, even though they've been playing like crap basically for a lot of this time. And kind of the same scenario with the Chiefs. Like, I just could not believe they lost. That they won against the Raiders. I mean, they killed them too. So much to discuss as we continue our journey into football, both college and pro. We're getting down to the end, so it's do or die time for a lot of people throughout both sports. Let's hit it! All right, football picks, week number 12. And I'm ready to do this. Let's go back and give you what happened last week here in the sports, in our projections and in our picks. So here's what happened last week. There you go. John holding steady at 2-2. Andy was 2-2 as well, and I actually think I was one. I guess I was 1-3. I thought it was I couldn't have been one. I thought it was 0-1 and 0-2-1 because, or 0-3-1 because I don't think the Washington State game was a cover. That was actually a push. So I should correct that. Ron was 0-4. Dan Tullis went 1-3 in his picks, unfortunately. But here are the standings after 11 weeks. And you can see I did reflect the proper result from last week in this final standings. John is 25-17. He's in first place. I am 20-21-1, and the 1 is, again, that Washington State game from last weekend, so I'm in second place. Ron is in third place at 19-22-1, despite the 0-4 week, which means there's plenty of time to rebound. And Andy is 17-23, which, although it's last place, it's only 4 games under 500. Oh, Andy, I potted you down. I'm sorry.
I was 17-21 last week, so you didn't give me the 2 wins.
Oh, I didn't? Oh, God. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
That's like I said,
I'm funhousing you.
No, I deserve it.
We're auditing this whole week. No, I'm just kidding. So you had Washington State getting 14.
Yeah.
I had you as 0-4. Not that it matters.
0-4? But I did. But didn't they push?
I had Washington State in real life, and I lost to the bookie. Didn't they lose by 21?
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It was close for a half.
Yeah. All right. It's been a day. I'm sorry, everybody. That could not have gone. That segment could not.
My bad. It's 38. Yeah, it was a push. 38-24.
Oh, okay. So I did get that right. Okay.
Well. On Saturday night it was 13. That's why I lost, because the game, it ended up being Washington State plus 13.
Mm-hmm. Right. It was 13 by the time you got the kickoff, but so I got a little lucky with the odds there because I picked it earlier. But either way, it wasn't a good week. I guess it's the point. Like it was not a good week for me. So let me say hello to Andy in Seattle. Andy, good to see you again. How's it going tonight?
I'm actually I'm using my work computer for this, so I hope 5 years from now I don't get in trouble and Mike's retired. I'm just kidding. That was the topic on the board today, using your work computer for non-work related things.
Oh boy. That's wild and crazy. Listen, I mean, I think that I'm glad that they're talking about that and not like medical stuff. So let's just leave it at that. Let's say hello also to John in Connecticut. Welcome back. How's it going tonight?
What's going on, Dave? Good to be back. Yeah, if Andy's auditing, did Dave get my record right? And if you're keeping track of everything, I think he did. I went 2-2, so I think that was right.
Yeah, that's what I have down. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good to be back, and should be a interesting show to get through all these games that happened over the weekend and coming up. So good to see everyone.
Yeah, likewise, John. Thank you very much for joining us again. And coming back to the program, let's say hello to Ron in New Jersey. Ron, welcome back. What's new with you?
Look who's back in town.
Yes, I love it.
I'll give you a quick funny story about how Andy with the work computer. I actually tried to do our football podcast one time on my work computer.
Oh no!
I got a message like halfway through that I forget what it said, but it basically shut my computer down. so maybe they're onto something. I don't know.
Oh my God, that's a strict security your computer has. Unbelievable.
They probably picked up on something about betting against the spread or something like that and shut it down.
Filters. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so good to have you all back, everybody. I miss you guys, and so let's do this. Let's do it again, and let's recap what happened in football last week. And Andy, I'm going to give you the first word on this because it was just crazy. I called it bounce back week for everybody because all the teams that lost last week won the next week except for a couple of exceptions. And the biggest exception was the fucking Raiders, who really destroyed my card. So kudos to them, I guess. I'm being sarcastic, of course. But Andy, certainly a lot of bounce backs for a lot of teams in the NFL. And there's a lot to talk about there. So what'd you think of last week's action, Andy?
Yeah, usually I like filling in because the other guys actually have good stuff to say, and I just kind of do a clown job. But I'll throw the first pitch. The first thing that I heard is every team that did not cover the previous week that played a team that did cover ended up covering.
That's correct. Yeah.
It might have been you that said, I don't know, the Barstool guys were talking about. So that if you're going to try that theory, you would take Atlanta tomorrow because the Patriots covered against the Browns. The Falcons did not cover against the Cowboys. That means you got to take Atlanta tomorrow to see if that theory is going to carry on. But the other thing that did pan out was the Thursday night overtime scenario. So last week was the Dolphins. They actually won outright. They played Baltimore. Now Baltimore played the overtime game against who'd they play? The Colts. The Ravens played the Vikings in overtime 2 weeks ago, and then played on short rest on Thursday night and did not cover. So, I mean, that was a strange game in itself because, you know, we know Miami's shortcomings. They play hard for Flores. Flores makes some weird challenges, but for whatever reason, the Ravens just could not get clicking. The Ravens this year, as John has mentioned, they do start slow, but usually by the second half, they're able to, you know, get their equilibrium, and they should have been able to put the Dolphins away. They did not. So, you know, those money line parlays with the likes of, you know, Pittsburgh and Dallas and Baltimore. If you had Baltimore, you were dead. The Browns Patriots game, I'll just speak on that real quick. Obviously, the Browns looked really good on that first drive, all the scripted 10 play, 15 play drive. But after that, you know, to sound smart, Mac Jones is on schedule. Sorry, Tullis. Everything he's doing right now, he's on schedule. They're expanding the playbook for him. I don't know, enough about Mac Jones, but I think it's just more of like the AFC is just so wide open now. There's a lot of teams that have 3 losses, a lot of 5-3, 6-3 teams. Dave, that Steeler tie is going to be so haunting because their schedule gets really tough. And now that tie might be the difference between 8 and 9 wins with our little stupid 8.5 prop bet. That's really haunting. The Broncos came back to earth. I mean, I wish I saw that come in, but the Eagles kind of had their way with Denver. The Chargers, we can talk about the Chargers. What's going on with the Chargers? I actually had the Vikings. As Yachts can attest, sorry about that, Yachts, but the Chargers defense, they have a Achilles heel. It's their running defense, and you know, Minnesota was able to exploit that. And you know, all of a sudden now LA Chargers they're kind of fighting it, but lo and behold, they get to play Ben Roethlisberger.
I was gonna say, like, that's who they're playing.
Yeah, we can talk about. I'll let John kind of talk about the meat and potatoes more about that Seahawk Packer game, but I would just say just a lot of rust for this. Russell Wilson made decisions that you rarely ever see him make, and you know, it was cold and just really Seattle's like environment to win that type of game. We can say Kansas City's back. I don't know if they're back, but you know, our eyes just get so used to watching that offense perform, and the market obviously was just like, people are still going to bet the Chiefs. Results be damned. We're still going to have the lines the way they are because people are still betting the Chiefs, and it finally paid off for those desperate people, present company included, that actually took the Chiefs and got to see, you know, not a complete game by them, but as complete a game as we've seen from them all year long. Surprising game with the Washington football team and the Bucs. Tom Brady threw a couple interceptions in the beginning of the game. When you thought Tampa was going to come back, they got it to within 3, and then Washington went on, like, I think it was like a 20-play, 10-minute drive. They converted 2 fourth downs, 3 third downs, and they basically didn't get the ball back until it was a 10-point game and 40 seconds left. So good job by Washington football team. Great job by John in instilling faith and taking the Saints. I piggybacked that. It didn't look good for a while. And you could actually say that the Titans were actually lucky to win that game. There was a big penalty called on the Saints defense on a very questionable, roughing the passer penalty on Tannehill that basically gave the Titans 7 points instead of 3 or whatever it was. But kudos for the Saints to come back. Injuries be damned. I don't want to complain about the Falcons. I'm in a good mood, but that was a terrible job out of Matt Ryan. And let's just see what else here. Obviously, the Bills got their equilibrium back. The Panthers, that was a surprising game. I know Arizona, they were due for like a clunker, but to see it in that fashion was kind of surprising, especially the personnel issues that Carolina had. It's not like they were 100% themselves. So everyone loves Matt Rule again. And the Monday night game, I want to say I called it. I did call it, but by the game time, I ended up taking the Rams. Ooh. So Shanahan owns McVay, but I still took the Rams on Monday night.
Wow.
Shanahan owned McVay. That was a lot of the people that like are Stafford doubters or now can like pound their chest because Stafford hasn't really looked good for the last month or so. And as Doggy would say, the Rams might be messing around with the karma gods, doing, trying to get everybody, trying to win it all. And, Robert Woods getting hurt right after they get Beckham. It's a sign of, some mysterious mojo above SoFi these days. So we'll see. We're getting into like very much the throes of the regular season now. The weather's changing, the days are getting shorter, and it's we got a lot of football left in the NFL at least.
Even more so this year because you've got that extra game for everybody. So interesting spot. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to make a quick comment on the Niners Rams game specifically before I go to John. I'll tell you what, and because I have a lot of friends who are 49er fans and I have friends who are Rams fans. Man, the 49ers fans were really pounding their chests, and they were doing an awful lot of awful lot of trash talking for a team that hadn't won a home game in almost 2 years. I mean, guys, can you calm down a little bit? Because for all we know, they could go out and they could lose to Jacksonville the week after. Like, I don't really see... that was kind of ridiculous, to be honest with you. So anyway, let's go to John, and let's get your recap of last week's action as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend. Not as much drama as some weekends that we've had in terms of like the Red Zone channel and whatnot. But yeah, that Green Bay Seattle game was interesting. Both quarterbacks coming back off of from various reasons. Obviously, Russell with his hand injury, and then Rodgers getting COVID and coming back. And they both were rusty. I mean, Rodgers threw one of the worst red zone interceptions I think I've ever seen him throw. There was just no need for that in that spot. Just take the sack and get the field goal. But really, they pretty much dominated the game. Yards were 2-1. They just missed a lot of opportunities. Crosby missed another field goal. I mean, he's starting to worry me. I mean, usually he's very, very clutch. I mean, he had that game winner, obviously, earlier in the year against the 49ers. But, he had that disaster of a game against the Bengals, and we may need him to make a big kick here in the postseason, and it's going to be scary to send him out there. But, another thing in the game was Aaron Jones getting hurt. Luckily, it's only going to be a week or two injury. Good thing they drafted A.J. Dillon. That guy just looks like a load to tackle. I mean, just, let's see him in the playoffs when it's like 10 degrees and snowing at Lambeau. Let's see who can tackle him. Rashawn Gary got hurt. He's one of their best pass rushers, but I think he's going to try to play. So really the Packers are doing all of this with just they're missing most of their defensive players. And I completely apologize to Joe Barry, who I just called incompetent and didn't know what he was doing at the beginning of the season. Clearly, the players were just kind of adjusting to his scheme because their defense has played amazing the last month or so, holding Murray and then Mahomes and now Russell Wilson in check. And they're doing it without their best players. Jair Alexander is not playing right now, nor is Zadarius Smith. And now Gary, if he's out, I would say he's their third best defensive player. Although, like I said, it sounds like he's going to play. So very, very, they're a complete team at the moment. So that's great to see. Like in the past, like they would lose that game, 27-17 because their defense couldn't hold up the end of the deal. But now the defense is playing well, and that's really a good sign. And definitely a tricky game this week at Minnesota. I think everyone will probably be on Packers -2.5, which is kind of scary when you have one huge public side like that, but sometimes it ends up winning. And Packers again with a huge game the following week against the Rams. Obviously, we'll get to that when we get to it, but big 2 weeks coming up for them. In terms of the other action from the day, yeah, very disappointed in the Raiders. That was one of my better picks, I thought, from last week, but I don't know. I think maybe this could be more so the start of the Raiders like falling apart due to all the turmoil that they've had lately versus the Chiefs being back. I mean, kind of time will tell on that in the next few games. I was reading that the Raiders, they play the same defensive coverage no matter what. And I guess Gus Bradley is their defensive coordinator, and he does the same coverage every time. Like he doesn't play like that cover 2 shell that's been giving Mahomes so many problems where, you put the safeties back and you force them to kind of dink and dunk or run the ball down the field, and the Raiders don't do that. And here you see Tyreek Hill streaking down the field multiple times. So we'll see what Dallas can do this weekend if they're going to employ that defensive strategy and if Mahomes struggles again. But for 1 week anyway, the Chiefs were the Chiefs. Mention, I guess, some of the early games. Yeah, that tie between the Lions and the Steelers, that was pretty ugly. And honestly, like when Ben got ruled out and the spread dropped like 3 points, I was like, oh shit, like, is there really much of a difference at this point between Ben and Mason Rudolph? Like, you missed all the value. At least I thought anyway. The Lions still ended up covering if you took them with the points. But man, that was a brutal game. The football team gets the big upset over the Bucs. That was pretty surprising, especially with Tampa coming off a bye. Tampa, never thought I'd say this, but they missed Antonio Brown. I mean, their offense was pretty dull without him. Brady had a couple bad interceptions. The Falcons, just a complete, utter disgrace. 3 points against Dallas. But again, like the NFL is so crazy. Like I agree with Andy. Like I'm probably going to have to bet the Falcons tomorrow. And I don't want to, but I'm probably going to have to do it just because the way these things have been going. He documented that Titans game where the Titans really won because of that horrible roughing the passer call that led to a touchdown. The Colts were up 20-0 basically in the first quarter and still couldn't cover, which was a disgrace against the hapless Jags. So who knows with that team. And he pretty much covered the rest of the games. I won't ramble on about each of them. But in terms of like the drama on Sunday, there really wasn't much of it. But hey, you know what? You can't get 18 winning weeks. So we'll take it for what it is. In terms of the betting, I hope everyone did well, and we'll move on to this week.
Love the sentiments, John. I think I did okay. Like I think I should have read the idea that teams were going to bounce back better, though I didn't do a good enough job of that. Like, for example, although it's hysterical because I'm like, oh, all these teams are winning their games that have coming off a loss. Let's go do the Raiders. Fucking Raiders are like the one team that didn't actually cover their spread. They got absolutely trashed. So that was just a disgrace. But let's go back to Ron. Let's get your thoughts on last week's action as well. Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd like to opine a little bit and just because I haven't been around, for these shows. So basically, my overall theme for football, and not just the NFL, for college football too, it just seems like, and obviously it's represented in our numbers, for the bets on the show, but it's like 90% of the teams in football this year are either, somewhere between a game under 500 and a game over 500. And it just makes it impossible to, to get an edge and bet these games because, I mean, you just see crazy shit every week. There's no guarantees anymore. It's like everybody's got a level playing field, and you see that, especially came out this past week because you had, the friggin' Dolphins really, I mean, dominated the Ravens. And if you paid attention to the Dolphins at all this year, I mean, they've been as bad as it gets. And to start the week off like that, you knew it was just going to get a little crazy. And then you had results like, the tie in Detroit and Pittsburgh. You had Washington beating Tampa Bay, which, is crazy to think about. Brady looked awful in the first half. You had the Monday night game, the Rams barely showing up against the 49ers, 49ers dominating them. the Chiefs blowing the doors off the Raiders. I mean, it's just there's no guarantees this year. There really isn't, and it's so cliche, but it really is like the truth that any team can win any Sunday, and it's like, except if you're the Jets. If you're the Jets, you're not going to.
I figured that was coming.
Any other team can win. And the Panthers, I know that the Cardinals were missing Hopkins and Murray, but the Panthers blew them out. Even the Vikings beating the Chargers. I mean, these teams are all like, I look at the standings, and I mean, every fucking team is like, 5-5, 6-4, 4-6. It's so hard to distinguish between like the majority of the NFL. I guess it makes it interesting come playoff time because really nobody's, except for like the Jets, Jaguars, and Lions, nobody's ever is going to be out, especially with the 17th game. But man, it just makes it extra hard to pick these games.
That it does, and I just think. It's hard. Yeah, you're right. And I think, as you said, it's been a struggle for everybody, really. We've had our moments, but like, for example, when the Cowboys were trashed by Denver, I was all over that. I was like, oh yeah, they could totally win that game. But then the same week, it was like, I didn't think the Giants were going to beat the Raiders. I didn't think Cincinnati was going to get destroyed by the Browns. But then you look at the same exact team, the Browns. They go out to New England and they were never in the game. So just to your point, it's like, I don't think it's almost as if is anybody good in the NFL? It's like kind of a cliche, but I don't know. So let's go to the picks then. It's I hear you. It's tough to make a call when you have that in the sport. But anyway, let's get to the picks, and we've got a lot to talk about. So John, you had the best of our record, and by the way, the tiebreaker last week at 2-2. So, John, when you're ready, we're ready to get started with your picks for NFL Week number 11.
All right, Dave. So, the fading Tennessee was good to us last week, so we're going to go there again. Ugly, but we're going to do it. Houston Texans +10. I did see some 10.5s on some books yesterday, but those have since gone, unfortunately. I would like that hook, but we'll still take it at 10. We kind of talked about it before. Tennessee was very lucky to win the game. They were pretty much outgained, out yard per play, whatever you want to, like, statistically, they lost the box score. The difference was they forced a key turnover that led to some points, and then also that horrible penalty that was called roughing the passer against the Saints, which led to a Titans touchdown, which should have been an interception, and that was really the difference in the game. Obviously, the Saints ended up coming back to cover miraculously, kind of give us some justice there at the end. But in any event, this Titans team still has not been very impressive the last few weeks in terms of just the actual game control, as you would say. Without Derrick Henry, their offense really hasn't done much of anything. Now, that could change this week, obviously, against a pretty rotten Houston team. But again, we've talked about this, recently. Like, when's going to be the letdown game for this team? They've just played 5 just incredibly intense games in a row. They played the Bills, the Chiefs, the Colts, the Rams, and now the Saints. And like, when's there going to be a letdown? I know this is a division game, but it's got to come at some point here. And like I said, they really haven't been dominating these games. I think Houston can kind of hang around. Taylor was just awful against Miami, his first game back, but that was 2 weeks ago. They had a bye. I think he's pretty capable, as we saw in the beginning of the season. I mean, they beat the Jags, and then they were like right there with the Browns when he was in. So obviously, if Davis Mills was playing, I would not be taking this pick. So this is dependent on Tyrod Taylor playing, but I think he can keep this game close against a kind of hopefully maybe a flat Titans team in this spot. So we'll go Houston +10 for game number 1. And then game 2, we will go with another dog. We're going to take the Colts +7 in Buffalo against the Bills. Now, I know I just kind of trashed the Colts for how they just kind of sleptwalked through the game after, their first quarter against the Jags. But really, they might have just been kind of looking ahead to this game once they got up big like that, and they knew they weren't really in danger of losing. I don't know. But I mean, the Colts they've been in every game this year. Their running game, Taylor's becoming one of the better backs in the NFL. If you remember, these two teams played in the wild card game last year, and it's pretty much the same two teams. I mean, the only difference here is Wentz replaced Rivers. I mean, it's kind of a wash, I guess you could say. I just think this is going to be a close defensive battle. The Bills' offense, I mean, yeah, they put up 45 on the Jets, but who wouldn't? Like in games against real teams, their offense really has kind of struggled. I mean, they just put up 9 in Jacksonville 2 weeks ago. So, I'm not saying the Bills' offense has been like completely cured after one game against the Jets. I just think this is a few too many points. We'll take the value with the Colts to keep this one close. So we're going to take 2 AFC South road dogs. So this should be interesting. We'll take Houston +10 and Indianapolis +7 are your picks for NFL week number 11.
Thanks for those picks, John, and thank you for the picks. You were the first with the picks. Thanks very much for those, and good luck, of course. Very interesting. Very good value plays. I like where you're going with those. That's pretty good. I'm following some intense drama in. It looks like it's in Muncie, Indiana. Yeah. So CMU versus Ball State. The over/under is 57, and it's sitting at 54. 10 minutes left. But this weather is nasty. I'm keeping an eyeball on that. We're gonna see if that one. I have the under in the game. We'll see if it holds on somehow. But
and then Dave, Northern Illinois Buffalo is 24-24 in the fourth right now. Buffalo just got 2 touchdowns, so that one's coming right down to the end too. So there's some good action there.
Another night from action. I love it. All right, let's see who's next in our queue. We have, I think it's Andy in Seattle. So Andy, when you're ready, we're ready for your Week 11 NFL picks.
Thanks, Dave. I'll be quick here. Game number 1, we're gonna take KC Chiefs -2.5 against the Cowboys. The KC's back. No, the Chiefs are back, man. No, this is. I don't really have much of a. I don't have much of like a. This is why I'm taking the pick. But if I had to, it's This is maybe the first time the Chiefs has had any sort of momentum, and maybe they could carry it for 2 weeks in a row. And I'm just picking against Dallas because I don't know. Going into the season, Dallas, like the book on Dallas was great offense, suspect defense. But that narrative's kind of changed. Like the Dallas defense is actually pretty good. And obviously their offense is really good because Dak is probably a top 10 quarterback. Elliott, I don't really like Elliott, but Elliott's a really good running back. And they have a ton of receivers. But again, this is a Buck and Aikman game. If the Chiefs want to be... I mean, people take them seriously because you close our eyes are just so used to them being proficient, efficient, sexy, all that, and then some, that we want to see it again. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm betting with my wallet and this little contest that it's going to happen. So give me KC -2.5.
All right.
And then I was going to take the Chargers. I probably still will, but I'm going to pivot, Dave. And why am I pivoting? Just because what Ron was saying, how like if you're 3-6, you're in the hunt, especially in the NFC when they do like the graphics. And God help me, but I'm taking the Bears. Okay, I'm taking the Bears.
Whoa.
Romo game, Dave. I hope you have respect for them. We do the top NFL games this week on that PowerPoint slide. It's the Nance and Romo game.
Is it really?
Chicago.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take them. I think it's 4.5. I don't have Vegas Insider in front of me, but whatever it is, I think the Ravens are giving 4.5 at Chicago. I'm taking the Bears. Because I have Justin Fields on a stupid fantasy team. Stafford's the main quarterback, but he's on a bye week. No one cares about your fantasy team, Mike. But I'm taking Fields. I'm taking the Bears. This is obviously like their version of the Super Bowl. They're 3-6. They're in the hunt for this dopey, wild card spot. And I don't know what to think of the Ravens right now. I think their defense can be. How do you describe the Ravens defense? it's pretty good, but they lead the league in allowing like the big chunk plays. Like they've given up the most chunk plays in the NFL. And obviously the Bears aren't known for like explosive plays, but Fields does have the potential to make explosive plays. So backs against the wall, Romo and Nance. They've already done a Bears game where they got embarrassed by Tampa. So I'm just saying, like, now that the Bears are on CBS again, maybe it'll be a little closer. And you're getting 4.5. It is 4.5. You're getting 4.5 to play with. Also, the Ravens they haven't covered in 3 games in a row. Just give me the Bears getting 4.5 to go with KC minus 2.5 in the middle of November.
All right, Andy. Good luck. And I have it up on my screen as 5, so you'll get the extra half point there. So good luck, sir. Yeah, good stuff. Well, I think Nance and Romo could potentially be very mad at me in a few minutes. So before we get to that, though, let's get to the rest of the picks. And so we'll start with mine, and I'll give them to you now. Let's see. I have this for week number 11. Now, I'll say this as far as the picks as far as my football picks. I think of the 2 sports, I'm doing better with the NFL compared to what I was been doing with college. College has been an absolute train wreck. Like I just cannot get a game. I cannot get a week right. I think I finally did about 2 weeks ago. But dude, it's just been tough. College football is extremely impossible to predict week to week. So, but on the NFL side, we're doing better. So let's give you what I got this week. So, game number 1, I'm actually going head to head with Andy, and because I think the principle of the Chiefs is that when you expect them to do big things, they don't. When you expect them not to not be a player, they are. But I think what happened last week is really more of a function of what John was talking about earlier. 2 things: their lack of ability to adjust defensively. They keep getting beat by Travis Kelce all the time. You'd think that they'd adjust their defense to defend Travis Kelce better, but they just keep doing the same thing, and they got absolutely housed against Kansas City. So for me, I actually think that's more of an aberration than what's to come for the Chiefs. And the Cowboy defense, as Andy alluded to in his picks, are actually pretty solid. I think that their defenses look good from the beginning. It goes back to week 1 when they gave Tampa Bay a game. They shut down. I almost said San Diego. The Chargers a little bit later in the season. I actually think this defense is pretty good. And so they had a bad game. Yeah, absolutely. Like Denver threw the house on them defensively, and they couldn't recover from that. But I think the larger sample size says the Cowboys are a better defense for the course of the season. So on that principle, I think they're going to really rough up Patrick Mahomes. I don't think the home field advantage really applies here because the Chiefs have had plenty of bad games at Arrowhead Stadium. You know, against the Packers, they sat on 13 points for 3 quarters. That's pretty pathetic. Actually, I think they sat on 13 points for the whole game. They didn't score another point. Against the Giants, they looked terrible. So just because they had a big game against the Raiders, who couldn't get out of their own way, honestly, everything was really going fine for the Raiders until that rookie caught the ball and then fumbled it on the same play. I mean, if he just catches the ball, it could have been a completely different game. I'm not better about the Raiders, but regardless, I think that the Cowboys are probably going to win the game at Arrowhead. So Andy and I agree to disagree on this one, but we will see who ends up being right in the course of a few days. So that's game number 1. Anyway, game number 2, and I think John has a point about this game, but I'm gonna take my chances on Aaron Rodgers giving 2.5 at the Vikings. They do tend to own the Vikings, not as much as Chicago, but they do still kind of own Minnesota too. So I think we're gonna go with the Packers here. I remember there was one loss, might have been a playoff game, but I think of the 2 teams, I trust Green Bay more here. It'll be interesting without Aaron Jones, but the thing about it is, I know Aaron Jones is out for 4 weeks, so he's on my fantasy team. He has been one of the most frustrating players to have on a fantasy team all year. But the only reason I think that is because I feel like the coaching staff really likes what they see with Dylan, and they've honestly been giving Dylan more chances with each week. So now they're really going to have a real chance with him. I think he's going to have a nice game. So all in all, I like the Packers here, and we'll see how it all shakes out in the days to come. So My picks, Packers giving 2.5 and Cowboys getting 2.5 for Week 11 in the NFL. And that brings us straight in to our friend Ron. I can see on my screen he's chomping at the bit. So we're ready for your picks when you are, Ron.
All right. Yeah, don't pay attention to my picks the way I've been going. But the first pick I'm actually going to take the Jaguars plus 6.5 at home against the 49ers. No idea why. I mean, the Jaguars have been playing teams tough and close. They're obviously still a bad team. But this is another case where, the 49ers are coming off that, the blowout on Monday night against the Rams. I think, in my line of thinking is the NFL is so topsy-turvy. They could go to Jacksonville and lose 6 days after destroying the Rams. I think, if anything else, the Jaguars keep it close. So they might lose the game outright, but I'll take the Jags plus 6.5. In my second game, I'm going to take the Saints plus 2 on the road against the Eagles. Again, Eagles, coming off that win against a pretty bad Denver team, and they still have Jalen Hurts at quarterback. I mean, the Saints defense is legit. They've been playing with Simeon and Winston before that. I mean, keeping them alive basically all year long. So I could see the Saints making life living hell for Hurts. And they'll do enough to win. Kamara's coming back this week. I think they win outright. So I'll take the Saints plus 2 and the Jags plus 6.5.
All right, Ron. Thanks very much, and good luck, of course. I honestly love the Jaguars pick quite a bit because you said that the Jags aren't a good team, but neither are the Niners. Honestly, I don't think they're a good team. I think they just had a great matchup with the Rams and they exploited it. I honestly don't think.
I think you're right.
Right? Yeah, I think that's where it is. The coaching staff just knows the Rams too well, and the thing about Stafford that can just be really maddening is that he'll just have games where he's completely erratic, and I think that completely happened on Monday night. So we'll see. And so that concludes football picks for now. Because for the NFL side, because our guest picks aren't in yet. And I believe when we get them, they'll be from Robert in Virginia, but hopefully we'll get those on the website before too long. So we'll look ahead then to the week's games. And truly, we have some interesting matchups here in the NFL this weekend. We started off with the Colts against the Bills, which could really be a good game. I think John, with his pick, is suggesting that it will be a good game. It should be a closer game than people even expect, perhaps. And I think it's a very interesting evaluation of the Colts season to me. I've been thinking for a lot of the season that they're not a good team, but they can be cagey because they have a good running game. Taylor definitely is the real deal. And, Wentz has been playing with fewer mistakes of late, so I think it's a really good scenario. So that's at 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS. Packers-Vikings is also at 1 o'clock Eastern. And it is interesting that this is not the 420. Well, no, actually, no, it's not that interesting because I know I just looked further down the list. I know why it's not the 425 game. So Packers-Vikings will be a pretty good game, I think. And I don't know. I think it could go either way. 1 o'clock Eastern on Fox. Bengals Raiders. It's a chance for the Raiders to bounce back. It's a chance for the Bengals to bounce back. They both look like trash the last time they played their respective games. So they're going to be coming in. However, the difference is the Bengals are coming off the bye. So I would be very, very curious as to see who's going to respond here in this particular matchup. I honestly think that the Bengals will have the better game. So that's at 4 or 5 Eastern on CBS. Cowboys, Chiefs. I mean, you're talking about two iconic franchises, two pretty good quarterbacks, two top 10 quarterbacks, and two offenses who, at least for the last couple years, have been regarded as pretty good. The Chiefs have certainly not looked that way most of the season. So Cowboys, Chiefs, that's where Andy and I are head-to-head. That's 4:25 Eastern on Fox. Unfortunately, once again, Nance and Romo are the odd ducks in this list because I did not think enough of the Bears to put them on this list with the Ravens. But we'll see if Andy agrees or disagrees with that. Steelers-Chargers is the nightcap on NBC for Sunday Night Football. Both teams are kind of stinky, to be completely honest with you. I kind of am curious as to whether you think the Chargers are a good team. And I'm a little different from everyone else. I actually don't think they're good. The reason is because their defense is so bad. I just think their defense is just not really doing much this year. I mean, they gave up like 50 whatever to the Browns. Andy was in the building for that one with me. I don't know. I'm just not convinced. And Steelers obviously are similar problems, but the problem for them are on the offensive side. They just cannot score some games. They couldn't even get a field goal in like the last 10 minutes when they were into overtime. It was just sad. So those are your featured games. Andy, I'll go back to you. I would like to get your thoughts on all of this action. And you could very much be right about the Chiefs, but time will tell. I just think it's going to be a good matchup. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, well, like I said, like in a previous life, Romo and Nance must have done something to you. You haven't had one of their games up in forever. Next week they also get the 10 a.m. game. I suspect it's going to be Titans-Pats because next week, it's another Fox game. It's Packers and Rams at Green Bay. Mm-hmm. They must alternate who gets the prime time Thanksgiving window based on like the Thanksgiving game. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. But next week, I suspect Nance and Romo will be in New England for Titans-Patriots. So this week, yeah, it's weird. I think there's so many close lines. Like the average line is like anywhere between 1 and 2.5. There's not a ton of there's not a lot of big lines. So suicide pool, like I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people have already taken Tennessee, and a lot of people maybe you take the Browns this week against the Lions. But I think Bills Colts has, I would take the underdog in that one because, I just don't know how you really break that down. No offense to the Jets. I can't say the Bills are back based on what they did against the Jets. I mean, the game was like 10-3 with like a couple minutes left in the first half, and then bing, bing, boom. It was like it got away from the Jets quickly. Obviously, it was Bills and the Colts played in the playoffs last year. It's a totally different personnel for it's Rivers. Rivers is gone. Wentz is in, and I'm trying not to use my anti-Wentz bias here. Putting that aside, I think the Colts have a very good chance to beat the Bills. Now this is like you just want the Bills to lose because the Patriots get to play them twice in December. That might be true, but yeah, I think the Colts, as long as they can be like two-dimensional on offense, you can't put it all on Wentz's shoulders, and obviously they don't because Taylor's a great running back, but when you need Wentz to protect the ball and not do anything stupid, it gets dicey because we know Wentz has the propensity to do really stupid stuff, so we can't have that. And the Bills, like they're ball hawks sometimes, and I don't know, but what we've seen from the Bills lately, it's a little inconsistent. So I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. And gun to the head now, I would take the underdog. And then Dave, you nailed it with the Raiders and the Bengals. I probably would lean Bengals coming off a bye, getting to whatever happened in that I think it was the Cleveland game. That was the last game they had. They got to wash that, bury the tape. Don't even watch film from that. Bury the ball, whatever you need to do. Come back fresh against a Raider team that, as John mentioned, they might start to crumble based on so much turmoil. Like, remember John Gruden? Remember that? Remember that? Like, so yeah. That's like ancient history now based on all the other stuff that's happened. And going back to the preseason, I don't think they were expected to be where they are now. They had that unexpected week 1 win, and they've just kind of been I wouldn't say a feel-good story. They haven't been a feel-good story. They've probably been a surprise story. And I think maybe they start to feel the weight of everything. And as we know, the Bengals are probably 1 year ahead of schedule, with Chase and Burrow and their defense being better than expected, and Mixon being a very formidable running back, and their coach not being as much of a dumbass as we might have thought. So I think the Bengals are a much more complete team than the Raiders are at this point. John's team versus the Vikings. I can't take Kirk Cousins anymore. Although Funhouse me, I did take him against the Chargers 4 days ago, but I don't like betting against Aaron Rodgers. I already did it once this year. I'm taking the Seahawks 4 days ago. I will be taking the Packers. I think Rodgers will have a much better game. I know no Aaron Jones for Green Bay, but Minnesota is just too conservative. You're not going to beat Aaron Rodgers playing the way like Zimmer wants to play the game. And I know the running game's really good. But I think Green Bay's defense is better than San Diego's defense. So give me the Packers in that one. And then what else did you flash up there? I know the Saints and the Eagles. I don't think you had it up there, but it's an entertaining game because all of a sudden the Eagles now are considered in the hunt, and the Saints need to watch they got to mind their P's and Q's just because, it's Trevor Siemian, but it is the offensive genius known as Ass Clown. He'll have to get creative again, but I think that the Eagles defense is very suspect. The reason why they didn't look suspect last week is because they were playing the Broncos, who were very much a team on offense. And actually, that game was actually getting close. I think like Denver was on the verge of like tying that game, and that's when Philadelphia recovered a fumble all the way. I think that's when Bridgewater like almost tried to tackle it, but he didn't. But anyway, yeah, give me the Saints in that game. And Dave, we already talked about your team versus the Chargers. I think it could be a long night for the Steelers if Mason Rudolph has to play quarterback for them. You know that? Yeah,
I wouldn't argue that.
They'll have to unless they're able to feed Najee Harris like 30 carries, which they could.
They could. And the Chargers are probably not going to stop them if they do. So
yeah, they're going to have to, not to sound like Dilfer, like they're going to have to stay on schedule against Del. They can stay on schedule, then they can feed Harris as many times as they want and keep Herbert off the field.
Yeah, it's good strategy all the way around, Andy. I love it. So thanks for your rundown of all these games. You didn't say unless I just missed it, but we didn't talk a lot about the Chief game. But you had it in picks too, so I guess
in picks.
Yeah, all right, right on. Indeed. What would you do with the? Oh yeah. Let me ask John that question. Let's go to John, and let's get your rundown before. But actually, let me bring you in, John. This Buffalo game is getting very interesting. I mean, what's the funny thing about it is that Buffalo was. It seemed like they were a significant underdog. So this is really coming down to the wire.
Pick 'em, Dave. I think they were getting like. I bet the money line, but they were getting like 1 or 2.
Oh, just one. Okay.
I'm getting 1.5 here.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I think what I was thinking was that, what I meant to say was that Buffalo's like 4-6, which is like, oh, wow. I guess they've really fallen off since Leopold left. So I was like, wow. But so, yeah.
Licata's gone. He's been gone forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, I hope that works out for you the rest of the way, John. This has been quite an interesting one. It looks like the under is on track unless they go to overtime. So we'll see. But, by the way, in that other game, the Central Michigan game, the under hit. It was some dramatics there, but the under came through for whoever had it. So good stuff. All right, John.
You have it, Dave?
I did.
One of those people?
I was.
Nice.
Ka-ching.
Yeah, nice. No, I had Central Michigan and hoping getting Buffalo home here, but yeah. So I guess we'll talk about NFL for this week.
All right.
Andy mentioned a bunch of those games. I'll mention the Sunday night game. Actually, when you guys are talking about it, like some light bulbs went off in my head here. Like the spread 6.5. So like, yeah, we don't want to see Mason Rudolph, but if any team kind of has the ground and pound mentality, like it would be the Steelers with Harris, and the Chargers, they can't stop the run. So this seems like your typical, like this could be an ugly game because the Steelers have a great defense too. So I think they're just going to try to make it ugly. I see the over-under is 47.5. That seems way too high to me.
Yeah, you're right.
That's going to be an under game. I think it's going to be like 20-16, I think, that game. So I would lean Steelers and under for that pick. And it's interesting. Someone, I forget who it was, shared on Twitter, like a play chart of Justin Herbert's throws in the game against Minnesota. And literally he had like 2 throws beyond 15 yards. And it's crazy. Like I don't know the offensive coordinator there. I funhouse me. I do not know like who it is, but it's turning like into Marcus Arroyo, where when they had him in Oregon, they wouldn't use his skill set. And like, he came into the NFL, you're like, oh my God, where was this guy in college football? Well, they're doing all this dink and dunk business now, and it just doesn't suit what he's doing. So even if Rudolph plays, I'm liking the Steelers and the under at this spread anyway. Was it 6? I'm seeing 6.5 still. So I would definitely lean Pittsburgh and the under for that game. The Dallas KC game is kind of your marquee matchup. Again, I kind of mentioned earlier, it's kind of a wait and see approach. We'll see if the Chiefs kind of figured out what ailed them last week against the Raiders and if that can carry over. I don't know. I mean, just on the surface, like I'll take Andy Reid over McCarthy any day of the week. So I think that's definitely in their advantage. But the Chiefs their offense was just so bad for those so many weeks. I actually had to say I might pass on this game because I really don't know. Gun to my head though, under a field goal, I'd probably go with the Chiefs.
I'll bet it live.
Yeah, there you go. That live betting game. If they get behind 7-0 or 10-3 or something, just throw a bet in there on the Chiefs. I definitely could see myself doing that for sure. The Cincy Vegas game, yeah. This one, I think there'll be a lot of points scored in this game. I mean, we just saw what the Raiders defense is about, and Bengals defense isn't much better. So I could see a lot of points for this one. I would lean Bengals, I would guess, just because coming off the bye, and like I said, I think the Raiders could be heading down a bad path here. You don't have the Arizona-Seattle game up there on the screen. That could be a pretty interesting game. We'll see if Kyler Murray actually gets back on the field for this game. But, I mean, even if he does, I mean, this is kind of like a last stand game for the Seahawks. If they lose, they're going to be like 3-7. Arizona will be 9-2. You're probably going to get Seattle's best effort in this game. So I would kind of lean to the Seahawks in this one. So that's actually a pretty good late slate of games. You have those 3 for the 4:00 games for us here on the East Coast. I mentioned the Bills and Colts in my picks. Packers, Vikings. Like I said before, tricky game. The Vikings, they split with the Vikings last year. So, I mean, anything can happen. Honestly, even if the Packers lose this one, they're still in pretty good control of the division. The more important game, honestly, is against the Rams next week, I mean, just for seeding purposes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'd be upset if they lost it, but more so concerned with the Rams game next weekend. And no one mentioned the Washington-Carolina game yet. Could be a return for, why would you, right? Could be Cam Newton's return to Carolina, right. And also revenge game against Ron Rivera. So some juicy storylines for this one. I don't know. You got to figure Washington's going to have a bit of a letdown after that Tampa Bay game. I mean, Heineke played out of his mind in that game, and their defense played great. I mean, it's going to be a pretty, like, I could see the Carolina, like, fans being like, it's going to be a rowdy atmosphere for Cam being back there. I honestly don't know if I would start him, though. I mean, PJ Walker's looked pretty good. And Cam objectively was just awful last year with the Patriots. So I kind of like the idea better of Walker starting and then maybe Cam in for some specific packages. But, I'm not the coach. So we'll see what happens. But I definitely would lean Carolina in that matchup. So, those are all the games that I kind of wanted to mention. I know there's some other on the schedule that we didn't get to. But other guys did it pretty good as Buffalo just drilled a 55-yard field goal. So we might get some overtime here with some action.
Looking good.
Love this. The guy running play on 3rd and 9. Like, are you content with this?
I don't get it with these coaches. I guess the guy had the wind at his back, I'm guessing. But, And this coach they brought in, like Leopold took that Kansas job in like May or something. I mean, it was slim pickings at that point. But, hey, if they win this game, they're still in contention for a bowl. So we'll see what happens here in this overtime. Yeah,
good spot. I mean, folks with the under might be a little annoyed because if they do go to overtime, that's probably going to hit.
Yeah, it's pretty much dead unless it ends like 30-27 somehow.
Right. So Yeah, this is a fun game. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. I mean, that's a good spot. There's still a minute 10 though for Northern Illinois to win it in regulation, so we'll watch out for that too.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's go to Ron. Let's get your thoughts on this week's action. Like we said, we have a lot of interesting matchups here. So what do you think of them?
Yeah, I mean, John and Andy, they did a great job. They got every game under wraps. So I'll have to talk about the games that they didn't mention. You have Joe Flacco against Tua Tagovailoa in a great matchup in the AFC East. No, honestly, that's probably what I'm going to be tuned into.
Let me see, where is that?
And I like the Jets plus 3.5. Here's my other theory that I'm working on.
Okay.
Whenever somebody or whenever the national media throws out a hot take, or the local media throws out a hot take, you run with the opposite of whatever that take is. It was the Chiefs were dead. Chiefs were the worst team in football. Mahomes regressed. Andy Reid is done. And look what happened.
Yep.
You had the Chargers were anointed early in the season, and look what happened. They Mac Jones was a failure of a pick after 2-3 games. So you just go with the opposite of that. And the mood today in New York has been, Flacco's starting. What a disaster! Blah blah blah. So I think the Jets actually win that game outright. Call me crazy. I don't care if they do, but that's how I feel about that game.
That is so good.
And so that's just take the opposite of whatever the hot takers are on. And nobody mentioned the Monday night game. Buccaneers and Giants. I mean, Giants are one of those 3-6 teams. I don't even know if they have 3 wins. They might only have 2. I don't know. Whatever it is, the Giants faithful are, holding out hopes that they could get a playoff spot at like 5-12. So, so that's this is a crazy game. But that's all I wanted to add.
Okay.
John and Andy, they wrapped it up perfectly.
Thank you very much for adding some thoughts to that.
Yeah, I will. Like Tampa, they do miss it. Brady does miss Antonio Brown and Gronk. Like I have Brown on a fantasy team. He was having a good year when he's in there. Yeah, that offense hasn't looked sharp for a couple games in a row now.
I want to take the Bucs so bad, but I just laying over 10 in the NFL. I hate to do it, but you just feel like they're ready to just explode against somebody. But the Giants are strangely enough really good on the road, like as underdogs. At home they're horrendous, but on the road they've been covering. So I don't know. We'll have to figure out what to do with that game once Monday comes. But definitely a tricky spot.
That is, yeah. It could. I guess I'll say it again. It could go either way. We'll find out. But while we deliberate over that, let's go get our look into college football. And let's see what happened last week in last week's action on the college side. And what happened last week, well, I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about, to be honest with you. Let me go back to Andy. Well, let's see. Why don't we just start with Ron? Because Ron, we haven't heard from him in a while. Ron, let's get your thoughts on what happened last week in college football. We did have a real banger. I was in the building for San Diego State at home against Nevada. It looked like it was going to be a great game. It was a great game. It was a really good, rugged football game. Like a lot of running, low-scoring game. It was a good spot. That's probably one of my favorite games of the weekend, although I am biased. I was in the building. But you had that. And you had a lot of other stuff going on. But I'll give it to you, Ron, for your thoughts on what happened last week. Ron, are you with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I guess the first thing that jumps out at me is really the death of Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, Baylor, right? Yeah.
Playoff. But anybody who's watched college football this year, you saw that coming from a mile away. They're just not a very good team this year. They never had it all put together. And man, the job that Aranda's done at Baylor is insane. You figure they were almost talking about him last year as a one and done at the school, and look at how he's turned that team around. And I hear he's a name that's being mentioned with USC and stuff like that. I don't think that's a good fit, but I mean, he certainly raised his profile. But yeah, Oklahoma definitely no showing against Baylor. Basically doing nothing the second half, essentially knocking them out of any playoff talk. That was big. Let's see. Well, one of the weirdest games of the weekend was Notre Dame and Virginia. Virginia basically almost forfeiting the game against Notre Dame. Their quarterback Armstrong was a little banged up. They decided to sit him and not play him so he could be ready for this week against North Carolina in a game to see who's going to win the Coastal.
Did you think he could play, and they just decided not to? Basically, that is interesting.
Yeah, that's what I read. Is
wow,
he was ready to play. He was a game time decision.
Yeah.
They could have played him. They decided to sit him and make sure that he was ready for this week. So
okay,
very weird
yeah.
Scenario there. What are the North Carolina Pitt game on Thursday night was actually one of the I tuned out of the Ravens Dolphins, was just brutal. So I was watching that game. That game was an entertaining game. Pittsburgh had a huge lead in the second half, and credit to Sam Howell and UNC, they came back and took it to overtime. That was a really interesting game. You had Oregon surviving against Washington State. I think Oregon's, in a situation this week. They're another team like Oklahoma. I mean, like we've watched them this year. We know they're not, at least in my opinion, they're not one of the top 4 teams in the country. So they're playing Utah this week. I think it's a big test for them. So we'll see what happens there. And the NC State Wake Forest game was crazy. Kept going down, trading scores at the end of the game. Wake Forest is a fun team to watch. And that coach, what the hell's his name? Clausen. I mean, you got to figure that guy's got to get a big time job soon. Because I mean, Wake Forest always overproduces. And I mean, they have a real shot to go. And wow, he missed it. Jeez.
Wow, that's some crazy wind.
Yeah, that one's not. Yeah, that's a gnarly
Holy
wind.
shit.
You guys must have cable. I have like a streaming service. I didn't have to kick right now, so I'm happy about that. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. The wind took it like right and blew it like 5 yards out. Holy shit.
Looks like we're going to overtime, fellas.
God bless the MAC, and I'm sure you guys were watching the games last night too. I mean, every single game on like ESPN2 or the ones that are televised always go down to the end. So, I mean, what a great way to spend like a Tuesday and Wednesday night with football on. Thank God for the MAC shit.
Absolutely. Whatever commissioner that came up with that for, if it's their current one or the past one, the best idea they ever had. Like, when else are going to get free like airtime for your conference? It's like a national brand now, MACtion. So, just you can't get any better than the MACtion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love it. So, all right, Ron. Well, that's an awesome summary. And John, I'll stay with you. Let's get your thoughts on last week's college action.
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, like frauds, like we kind of all knew. And really, that's the one thing the committee had gotten right this whole time. Like, they had them at 8 or 9 since the start of it. I mean, even they knew they were just skating by. I mean, that one game against Kansas was really telling. They couldn't even get like a first down in the entire half against Kansas, and they needed had a horseshoe up their ass in that game to win that game. But so they're Baylor, a tremendous job for Aranda to get that win, and like last year, it just goes to show you, take nothing from last year because they were just ravaged by COVID and injuries and everything, and he's just done a tremendous job this year. So good job out of them, and really it's going to set it up now for probably Oklahoma State and Oklahoma to play twice, I'm guessing, in Bedlam, and then the next week in the Big 12 title. So if you're looking in terms of the playoff situation, I think both of those teams I think they'll split. I don't think either team is going to win two like back to back. So that kind of will knock them two out. I completely agree with what Ron said about Oregon. We've been betting against them all year, waiting for them to like take another loss here. And it very well could be, I mean, I'm going to be on Utah for sure this weekend, -3. It's one of our old favorite, like kind of the lower ranked team favored over the higher ranked team deal. But even so, like Utah's just been playing so much better lately with Cam Rising when he took over for quarterback. But again, those two teams are going to play this weekend, and they also could play again in the Pac-12 championship because Utah is going to win the South Division. So I don't think Oregon can beat them twice. So really, this is setting up good for Cincinnati. They might have to be put in by default. Like, who else are they going to put in at this point? Yeah, you know what they could end up doing? And like, everyone should boycott the college football playoff forever if this happens. If they somehow pretzel logic their way into putting Notre Dame ahead of Cincinnati at like 11-1.
Oh my God.
Don't put it past them, Dave. Like I could see
Tommy thinks so.
Yeah.
Money talks.
I could see it happening. Yeah.
ACQ
it goes
too.
against every logic possible to do that. But this committee, did you hear the guy last night? Like, well, putting aside the results of the game, like what the hell else matters? Like you just play the games on a spreadsheet then. Like
why are you playing the game if you have to put aside the results of the game?
Right. Like don't even play all right, let's just award the championship to the team with the best net point differential of the year. Like it just the whole thing is just such a farce. It's just ridiculous. Yeah. Bring me back to the BCS, honestly, where there's like computers involved. If you're gonna have like these human chodes, like just messing things up. Like,
did you just call them human chodes? That is great.
But yeah, so I just kind of ranted. So back to last week's action. So the Michigan State whole deal, that's a big thing in the rankings. But so Michigan, like you thought they were going to blow that game at the end there to Penn State, and they get the drag route from the tight end that breaks it for a touchdown. And and everyone loves Harbaugh. We'll see when they play Ohio State in a couple of weeks. I mean, their defense is good. Michigan's defense is really good, and they can run the ball this year. But I mean, that Ohio State offense is just rolling right now. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to think about that one for next week. But Michigan finally getting a nice win on the road, so that was good to see. At least that game will have some juice next week. And then that Wake NC State game was pretty crazy. Like there was hardly any points scored, and then all of a sudden there's like 30 points near the end of the half, and it just kind of carried into the second half. And Wake's going to play Clemson next week. The ACC championship is probably going to be Wake and Pitt. I mean, I don't know if that's on ABC prime time that Saturday, but that's
usually is.
Yeah, that's a rough game. Really nothing else to mention. Dave, did you bet UConn +40 because they somehow got there? They returned the opening kick for a touchdown and did literally nothing after that, as I expected.
It's so interesting.
I told you they weren't going to score without a fluke, and they scored on a kickoff return for a touchdown, and that was.
How about that?
So honestly, I subjected myself to the torture of watching the game. Like they played just about as well as you could for losing by 37 points. They actually made some defensive plays, so not too terrible. Not too terrible a performance. But
I agree.
It's the only thing that I would care about. Like they just hired Jim Mora as their new coach. Like really? Like I don't know. I guess he's better than Randy Edsall. I guess that's all I can say at this point. But.
Yeah, and a fall from grace for Mora too, of course. Once basically a signature program like UCLA, and then going down to UConn, certainly a fall from grace from that regard. But no, I did not bet 40 +40, but I think it showed that my instinct was dead on because it really boiled down for me. It boiled down to can Clemson score 40 points? They didn't. They scored 37, so it wound up working out. But I didn't actually have action on it. But I did have action on that over half a point in the first half. And I texted you about it. And the opening kickoff for a touchdown, I was like, cha-ching again. Ka-ching again.
10 seconds in, you got your money. You can't get better than that.
Isn't that great? To win it in the first play of the game. It was awesome. So, thanks, John. Great recap. And now we go to Ron in New Jersey. And let's get your thoughts on... Or did we go to Ron in New Jersey already? I think it's turned for Andy's. Yeah,
you already went.
Yeah, I did. Okay, yeah. So let's go to Andy. Andy, I should have paid more attention to that Armstrong news. That really burned me pretty badly.
No, as I tweeted like a madman, Notre Dame just gets the worst version of their opponent week after week after week. They played Purdue. Purdue didn't know how to run an offense. They played Navy. Navy does everything they can, but not enough. They play Virginia without their good quarterback. They should have lost to Toledo. They should have lost to Florida State. And here they are, like 60% chance to make the playoff. And all they have left is a Stanford team and a Georgia Tech team that those teams don't move the needle, but whatever the committee is going to do, whatever the committee is going to do, and we don't know what's going to happen with these teams ahead of them. I was going to say, like, with Ohio State, everything sets up perfectly with Ohio State because Ohio State's playing Michigan State. They play Penn State. They play Michigan. They play Purdue. And Purdue had an inflated ranking because of them beating Michigan State. So what I'm trying to say is, like, whoever is in the Big Ten game, whether it's Ohio State or Michigan State, they're going to play Wisconsin. And I think, like, Wisconsin could take advantage of being kind of like the stale poo, because, like, Michigan is going to be coming off of, like, either a big win against Ohio State, or Ohio State's going to be coming off a big win against Michigan. They're going to play Wisconsin. They might overlook Wisconsin. I hate Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's actually playing well with their defense. I'm just angry now. I had NC State getting 4 from Oklahoma State, and John State, Mohegan's son. NC State just missed a 3 at the buzzer. They lose by 6, getting 4, but we move on.
Basketball?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Basketball. We sleep in May. It's only no. But no, like, Wisconsin could potentially throw a wrench into all the college football stuff. John and Ron can probably explain it better, but Wisconsin's basically a shoo-in for the big, on whatever they call it, the legend side. I don't know what they call their division. Wisconsin's just in the crappy division with Northwestern and Indiana. Anyway, we'll see what happens there. Dave, your game was, like, I was paying attention to that game. I like Wisconsin strong. They lost, but they covered. I think they lost by 2.
2 points.
Like that.
2 points. I was on it too.
Yeah, they were getting 2.5. Very, very entertaining game. Be curious to see what that San Diego stadium looks like when it's finished. It's weird. Like, I think Nevada's weakness is obviously their defense, because that San Diego State quarterback actually looked pretty decent, and we know he's not good. Like, we watched a San Diego State, San Jose State game where that game was awful to watch. Neither quarterback, because it wasn't Starkle, it was Nash. Anyway, it's just whoever comes out of that West Division and going to play Boise, I think it's going to be Boise. I don't know. I was looking at the Mountain West standings, and Utah State all of a sudden is they're 8-2, and the teams that they've lost to are teams that they're supposed to lose to. Utah State has lost to Boise State, and then I think their other loss is out of the conference. I don't know. Someone's got to pump up their schedule. But if Utah State has a chance to represent the Mountain in that conference, that'd be good, because we're sick of Boise State always being in that title game. And all Utah State does is cover. All ECU does is cover. I wish we were on board with you. We took Utah State week 1 against Washington State, but we really haven't, like, paid too much attention to them. But lo and behold, they're 8-2, and good golly, you popped it up.
Yep, there it is, right up in the corner.
Yeah,
so Utah.
I guess we'll talk about Texas too, because
what the heck happened with Texas? Well, losing to Kansas. Wow.
What Sarkisian's done is, like, historically LOL Hibbert.
Big time.
So careful what you wish for. Like,
yeah,
I know Herman had some faults, but did Buffalo fumble? God damn, they touchback. Oh my God, I can't take this.
Oh no, I just saw that. Oh my God, you can't even get a field goal. Oh no,
this is action in a nutshell.
Yeah,
but yeah, like you saw a good game. Carson Strong and Dawes versus the San Diego State punter.
Yep.
Oh, I could vent on. Mike Leach down 28-3 and scoring 40 unanswered against Auburn, and then finding out that Bo Nix played like basically an entire second half on a broken ankle. It's crazy what they do in SEC country, but that's a true story. Bo Nix for the year with a broken ankle, and Mike Leach coming back from 28-3 is just like, that's crazy stuff. I had Auburn giving 5, so a little cranky about that. What else happened? You guys kind of broke it down pretty good. Just seeing what else we can talk about real quick. Oregon, they're like, I'm not a believer, but they're making Anthony Brown, like, they're not having, with exception to that one stupid interception he threw, Dave, when you were there, like the one time they had him throw, when he was trying to melt that game away against UCLA and he threw that pick. Like, after that, like, they're really just like, they're running like a high school offense, and they're making sure every third down is like 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. So it makes it very hard for that defense to stop Anthony Brown because he's like 230 pounds. So they're not doing anything crazy. They're really just making it very simple for him, and they're getting away with it. And Oregon, all they have left is, I would, Utah better. I don't know. I kind of want Oregon to do as well as they can. I don't like their quarterback, but I don't like Utah either. So I'm kind of like a Mike 44 right now with Oregon and their playoff dreams. And Arkansas, they play hard. That was like I got it from somewhere else, but I read a good comparison. Like Sam, the Arkansas State Pittman is like the Walmart version of Ed Orgeron, but at this point, like, maybe Ed Orgeron is going to be the Walmart version of Pittman because he's on his way out. And, I didn't realize that they benched Brad Johnson's son for LSU, and the other quarterback came in and was not very good. I had LSU, so I'm a little bitter about.
Yeah.
And then something's wrong with Florida. Obviously, they let Samford score 50, but Florida scored 70. So I don't know what they're going to do with Dan Mullen. We talked about it on the board with Ron. Like, remember when Mullen was like the best thing ever and was interchanging NFL jobs, and now like they want to run him out of Gainesville? It's so weird with college. And John mentioned it the other week with like they're firing coaches like now because of the way like the recruiting and the declaration process is. Everything is just so expedited, and it's crazy. And someone on the board was like, is it ruining the college product? Like, it probably not, because we're going to adapt. We don't even have to adapt. We're watching. Like, remember now, like, we're going to see, like, who's even going to play in all these bowl games now? Like, because you got to protect the investment. Like, we could see, like, who knows? We could be seeing, like, these very diluted rosters on these bowl games now, because if they technically don't mean anything, then why are you going to play in the bowl games? I hope it's not so bad, but it probably will be. So we'll just, you know what I mean? And
I know what you mean.
But I
was going to say, though, the Bo Nix scenario is probably a good argument for them holding out, because, if you're going to do that, it's kind of a tough, you know what I mean? Like, granted, Bo Nix is not going to do much in the NFL. We talked about that when you were in town, but I'm just saying, like, maybe that's why they do such things.
Yeah.
It sucks. I agree. It sucks. Like, I'd love to have them play hard in these bowls. Like, rather that happen, but it is what it is.
Oh, I think we can maybe stop talking about Matt Campbell. I mean, although, like, the UW fan, like, UW's wish list has Matt Campbell on it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Where is Campbell going? We'll find out. I'm curious. I'm looking forward to see where all these coaches go, and the domino effect. And this coach going here is going to open a bake. here and that coach going here is going to mean this coach goes there. It was be interesting. Dave, like we said, we're going to need, like USC needs to make a splashy hire and who it's going to be. I feel like there's more vacancies for like actual good coaches, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, and there's
coaches now, and Ron and John can do it better. Like the really like up and coming coaches now, where they are geographically doesn't match like the vacancies in the West Coast. Like the Louisiana coach is probably going to go somewhere in the Southeast. Like both probably should stay somewhere in the Northeast or the Southwest.
Yeah.
Or the Southwest. The Wake Forest coach, if he goes somewhere, probably should go somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair because, there are ties. There's recruiting advantages to staying in your region in that scenario. So that's the only shame of it. I mean, you have some big openings, and we'll pivot back to Ron.
The Coastal coach, he's got to go somewhere at some point.
Oh, yeah, he's good. Coastal Carolina, absolutely. And then whoever's coaching UTSA, like John's been telling us about them, and that's
they just locked that guy up. But I mean, one of those big schools in the Big 12 or a Texas school threw a bunch of money at him. I'm sure he'd go. But man, that team is really good. I love watching UTSA.
Meet.
Good time. Yeah, meet Roadrunners. Love it. I love that they're in the thing. Like that's a fun team to follow. I love that name is in the mix in the top 25. So let's go look at the this week's action. And we have some good games on the schedule. Take a look at this. We have Michigan versus Ohio State coming up at noon, or Michigan State versus Ohio State, I should say. And people have alluded to it in our panel, but Michigan State could be very cagey here in Columbus. We will see. You never know. I don't know if Arkansas, Alabama, but deserves to be on this chart because I just like you guys were saying. Which kind of surprised me a little bit. I'm surprised that Pittman's already on the hot seat. Like, geez, he's only been there for like a year and a half. He's already on the hot seat. That's kind of crazy. But they have been playing pretty badly. So, do they belong on this featured games list? I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. It seems like Bama probably would win that one by 30. We'll see. But John, check out SMU Cincinnati at 3:30. SMU I think is 8-2. They look really good, so I'm curious about that too. UAB UTSA, some love for the Roadrunners. There they are on the chart. First time I've ever in my life put an ESPN Plus game on featured games, but they deserve it. This is a good game. This will be a fun one. And then number 3 Utah gets number 23 Utah as their ABC Saturday night game. And it seems like a lot of folks, including probably all of us, are going to be on Utah for this one. So, John, I'll go back to you, and let's talk about the featured games this week.
Yeah, some interesting games there on the schedule. Obviously, Michigan State, Ohio State will kick off the day. I don't think this Michigan State team is probably as good as its record. I mean, that's been documented many times throughout the year. They kind of snuck by a few of these games, especially against Nebraska and Indiana, but hey, their record is what it is, and they got a great opportunity here. If they were to win out, they would get into the Big Ten title and potentially into the college football playoff. But this is going to be a tough assignment, especially what I've seen from their defense and going up against C.J. Stroud and that Ohio State attack, who's been just rolling recently, or at least against Purdue anyway. And Purdue has a pretty good defense. And they just tore them apart. So you got to figure Ohio State is going to win this game. I mean, they're almost 3 touchdown favorites. That spread does seem a little bit too high. If I was probably going to pick, I mean, there's so many games on, so I don't know if I'll even bet this one. But I will probably lean towards Michigan State with the points here. It seems like the Michigan State offense could score enough to at least keep this within, 20. And that's what you're going to need here to cover the spread. But probably a lot of points. I really don't have anything to say about Arkansas and Alabama. I mean, I don't think Pittman's on the hot seat at all, Dave. I think he's actually doing a really good job. I don't know where you're.
Well, no, that's what but that was certainly my impression of him. I think overall his season's been pretty solid. Like, I don't.
Yeah, no, they were a dumpster fire when he got there. I mean, he's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, Bama. That Auburn game could have been tricky, but now without Bo Nix, I mean, I think Bama's, it's going to be Bama and Georgia, number 1 and 2 in the SEC title game. So we'll just get ourselves ready for that. Yes, SMU Cincinnati. Cincinnati they just don't cover anymore. And, especially some of these games, I mean, the South Florida game, I mean, they were never really in danger of losing, but they're just really haven't been that impressive. But again, like I think by default, if they just win these games, they're going to be right there at the end. And, SMU certainly puts up a shit ton of points with their offense. We've talked about that many times before. So, I see the spread is like 10.5 right now. Like I would kind of look towards SMU and the over in this game. That's kind of where I would be leaning. I know Cincinnati wants to kind of put a beat down on somebody, but I think SMU can kind of hang in there. Your UAB UTSA matchup, UTSA is only favored by 4.5, which is a little interesting. Thought it might have been a little bit more than that, but UAB is a good team, so I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. That it's probably pretty close. So I might end up just on UTSA just because I like to root for them, but in terms of like getting an actual good bet, maybe it's not. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll definitely be rooting for them in that one. And we talked about Oregon, Utah. Definitely will be rooting and betting the Utes in this spot. I think it's just gonna be a tough environment for Oregon to go in there and get the win. So yeah, those are just some thoughts on your featured matchups. I mean, there's obviously plenty of other games on the schedule this weekend. Both of my picks were not on your list, so we'll get to those in a bit, I guess.
Okay, that's interesting. One I kind of wanted to pick your brain on before I go to Ron. What do you think about the Air Force Nevada game tonight? I think it's tonight.
No, it's this weekend.
Oh, it is
it's
this
on
weekend.
Friday, Dave. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's like 5 games actually on Friday night, which is pretty nice to go into your football weekend. But yeah, honestly, Air Force has been playing just great. And the one weakness Nevada has on defense is they can't stop the run, and that is not good against Air Force. So as much as I like Carson Strong, I think I'd probably go with Air Force in that one.
It's not a bad call. I think Air Force has had a pretty good season history against them too. I mean, head-to-head. So I think all in all, that makes sense to me. So Ron, let's go to you, and let's get your thoughts on this week's action.
Yeah, obviously I guess the main matchup this weekend is Michigan State, Ohio State, and I echo John's thoughts. I mean, I don't think Michigan State is as good as their record says. I also don't know if they're 3 touchdowns worse than Ohio State, but hopefully it's a close game. This season's so weird. Like, I mean, we're almost the middle of November. I have no idea like who the Heisman front runner would be today if they did it. But I think if I had a vote, it would probably be Walker on Michigan State. I mean, that kid's been their entire offense the whole year. I don't know how he's going to do against Ohio State's defense. I think if they shut him down, it probably tends to be more of a blowout for Ohio State, but we'll see about that. The Oregon-Utah game at night, it should be an interesting game to watch. I think, Arkansas, to piggyback off what you guys said, I mean, Pittman's done an amazing job there his first 2 years, and they've certainly overachieved, both years, but I don't think they're going to pose any threat to Alabama. Bama's, they're so good in a big spot. I think they roll and win that game easily. And I'll echo what you guys said about UTSA. I mean, they are a really fun team to watch, and their running back Sincere McCormick has been, he's been a name that's been, I guess kind of under the radar for the past couple of years, and he's really, really good. And it's cool to see them, like you guys said, in the spotlight a little bit. So kudos to them, and I hope they keep it rolling. And another point about, like what Andy said with the coaching vacancies, I mean, I don't know. It seems like, so many this year have happened so early in the process. I mean, usually we wait until like the last week of the season and we see everybody get fired. And this year it's been, started with Helton and it just keeps growing. But, I'm of the opinion that you should hire a guy who is familiar with at least with the recruiting of the area of the school. But the crazy thing is like the past couple of years, teams have gone completely the opposite direction if you think about it. Virginia hired Mendenhall, who never coached in that region. Auburn hired Harsin from Boise. Who else? Even South Carolina hired Beamer, who was never really an SEC guy. So these teams are basically, I guess their whole thought process is you pick someone who could be the air quotes, the CEO and the face of the organization or the team locally, and you hire a bunch of assistants who are better known for recruiting and handle it that way. But so it'll be interesting to see if it plays out like that. Like Andy said, like the hottest coaching names like Fickle from Cincinnati, they don't really fit in with like the USC or the LSU. So it'll be interesting to see, who they end up selecting. And, going back to Michigan State, I mean, Mel Tucker was basically like, when Michigan State hired him, like, I think like a month before the season or whatever it was a couple years ago, I think everybody laughed and said like, oof, what a hire. And all of a sudden he's the, everybody wants him. He signs a 10-year, $95 million extension today to stay there. I mean, talk about a turnaround. And who knows, we might be, on the program next year and they might be like 2-7 and there might be talk about firing him. I mean, that's just, how crazy college football's been, basically the past decade.
Yeah, it's true. It seems like there's just a lot less patience for the process anymore, and whether it's recruiting or coaching. And I find it unfortunate. And, people have been talking about the Alabama effect. That would have applied in a lot of years. It doesn't really apply this year. I mean, Georgia's the top dog this year. And I just think that, now, granted, in a lot of cases, it was completely justified. I mean, Helton was way past his expiration date when they got rid of him. He should have been fired like 2 years ago. But there were a lot of coaches where I feel like they kind of jumped the gun on it. So it is what it is. Let me see. Who do I have left over? I think Andy, yeah. So, Andy, let's get your thoughts on this week's action. Anything else you want to add?
We already did that, but I just looked. Utah State does control their own destiny in the Mountain West. They play Wyoming they play Wyoming this week, but they control their own destiny. They only have one conference loss. Okay. All the other teams in the Mountain have two. So we might see Utah State in the Mountain West championship game.
The crazy thing about that is, like, if you look at their odds before the beginning of the season had to have been like at least 100-1 to win the conference or win the division. I mean, there's another example of a guy, Blake Anderson, going from Arkansas State to Utah State, literally no connection to that area, and it worked out. So maybe some of these athletic directors have to look outside the box. So something to think about.
No one, I mean, this program cares about the Mountain West, but yeah, they finished with Wyoming, and they're favored by 6.5, and then they play New Mexico. So they should,
Oh yeah.
New
Mexico is
circumstances,
god awful. Yeah.
They should be in it. And then, right now San Diego State controls their own destiny in the West. Yeah. I love that conference.
It's a big win too.
Utah State last year was if you remember last year, Gary Anderson, he quit or got fired after like 2-3 games. And if you remember, like didn't half the team boycott and like sit out because of like COVID protocols and stuff like that, and they didn't feel like. I mean, that was one of the worst, situations in the country last year, and good for Blake Anderson. Always seemed like a genuinely good guy in Arkansas State. I know there's a story a couple years ago, that went national about his wife passing away and him missing time and stuff like that. But I mean, who the hell would have thought that they would have brought that guy in and he would have them on the precipice of going to the conference championship game? I mean, that's a story that should be getting more attention, like nationally. You don't hear anything about them.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, Boise State is such a vacuum.
Yeah, I'm sick of that team. Like, I'm done with them. Like, they're just boring and just I can't stand Boise State. Yeah, I'm done with them. Although Wyoming with the miracle cover of the year last Friday night,
That's right.
like a 75-yard pass with like 4 seconds left. I think it was about 1:30 in the morning. I thought I was dreaming. Like I was halfway awake watching the game, and then I see this guy's running it in for a touchdown. I'm like, oh my God, yes, we got the back door. Let's go. But yeah, that was crazy. And then if you had, like I said, if you had Boise that night, and then North Carolina the night before losing in overtime by a touchdown, getting 6.5. I mean, that's just as brutal as it gets in terms of bad beats. But anyway, we're getting off the rails here.
That did make bad beats. The Boise State one, like that made bad beats.
Oh yeah, how could it not?
It could not make.
Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so with that in mind, I think we covered everything. Let's go to the picks. And we're going to start, I think we start with you, John, so we'll leave it on you, and we're ready for your college picks. Let's do it.
All right, Dave. So we're going to start off with a Friday game, and I'm going to take Memphis, getting 8.5 against Houston. Now, the handicap in this game is Houston has nothing to play for. They've already clinched their spot in the AAC title game 2 weeks from now to play likely Cincinnati. I'm assuming Cincinnati's not going to lose their next two. So their spot's clinched. So again, what do they have to play for? Like, yeah, they want to win a game, of course, but they're not in national title contention. They're probably not going to in New Year's Six bowl contention unless they, if they beat Cincinnati in that game, they'll maybe get up there. But so really, there's really nothing for them, no real motivation. Whereas Memphis is fighting for bowl eligibility, where we've seen this in the past, numerous years. Teams that are playing for a bowl game are more motivated than teams in this spot who are not. And then just in general, I like the matchup on the field. I mean, Memphis has one of the most dynamic duos in Hennigan to Calvin Austin is just an explosive play waiting to happen. And Houston has had some problems defending those kind of plays. In recent weeks, they gave up a shitload of points to South Florida. They played East Carolina close. They haven't been like this dominant team over the last month. I mean, they've been winning games, obviously, so they're going to be in the conference championship game. But I just think this is a good spot for Memphis to at least keep it within a touchdown. You're getting 8.5, and I like the matchups here for them. So we will go Memphis plus 8.5 for game number 1. Game 2, and I'm going to go with this pick, but it looks too obvious. And sometimes I don't like that, but it is what it is. I'm going to take West Virginia -3 at home against Texas. We talked about it before. Texas is done for the season. Like, you can't lose to Kansas at home as a 30-point favorite and then just come back after that. You heard Sark talking this week how there's going to be like 40 new players on the roster next year. That just tells me that he's just going to completely clean house, and like guys are going to transfer and the whole bit. They've lost like 5 in a row now. Ever since Caleb Williams came in the Oklahoma game, he took their soul. They've just been horrible since then, and I think they've kind of packed it in for the year, to be honest with you. And again, West Virginia, 4-6, another team needs to win out for bowl eligibility. They play Kansas next week, so you got to figure they can get that win. So this is going to be a key game for them to get. They played pretty well at home this year. They beat Iowa State just a couple weeks ago. They did struggle against Oklahoma State and then Kansas State, but those are two of the better defenses in the conference. Texas will not provide any such resistance with their defense. It's just miserable. And then to add to that, Texas's best player, Bijan Robinson, is not going to play in this game. And so I just think, they're a dead team walking. Again, it looks too obvious, but sometimes the obvious picks are the right ones. So we'll go West Virginia -3, in addition to Memphis plus 8.5 are your picks for Week 12 college football.
All right, John, good luck and thanks. But I am surprised that Utah did not make your slate. I thought you would have that on there.
They'll make my slate, but I mean, we only do 2 picks here, Dave. I'll give you another bonus pick. It won't count for the contest, but again, another obvious one. Mm-hmm. Andy was on the sniff of it last week. FIU, another team, completely quit. So we're going to take North Texas this week, laying the 10 points. That's not an official pick. It's kind of like a bonus selection.
CUSA action. Let's do it. Good stuff. I love it. Thanks, man. All right. So now we move to Andy. Let's get ready for your picks for week number 12.
Yeah. So I was just getting distracted. I didn't know CBS Sports shows World Series of Poker. They do. There's this hot Asian girl.
Wait, let me see.
CBS Sports is showing poker. And I need Funhouse to get all the dirt on this girl. Mikio Aoki. I don't know. She's half Japanese, half Irish.
Look at this.
Playing poker. Anyway, the basketball ended, so CBS Sports is on there. But,
who is the lady in the gold like jacket and the beret?
I don't know. She's not the one that I thought was attractive though. Aoki though is a good looking girl. But anyway, I was just Googling her. Need Funhouse to find out all the anyway. Game number 1, we're gonna take. We might be getting to the party too late for this team, but we're gonna take ECU giving 4 at Navy. John's talked about ECU back in the day. Their quarterback, he's kind of a pudgy lefty, but he's good. And all ECU basically has done is like cover this year. They were in a barn burner with Memphis last week in overtime. I think they might have lost by a point, but the line was 4. Well, they might have won. Either way, it was a 1-point margin. They covered. All they do is cover. Navy, I know Navy they play hard, but they're dead to me after they didn't cover against Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. I like ECU. I've taken them a couple times this year. Hopefully they can continue their covering streak at least one more time. Give me ECU -4 at Navy. In game number 2, we're going to stick with Middle Tennessee State. It's our little inside joke with Tullis. They're giving 4 to Old Dominion. We remember when John took Western Kentucky about a month, maybe more than a month ago at this point, he pointed out that Old Dominion has a terrible defense. I'm guessing that's still the case. Middle Tennessee State, they hung 50 against FIU. They hung 50 against Monmouth a long time ago. And I don't know if they're going to hang 50 against Old Dominion. They just need to beat Old Dominion by 4. They're 1 win away from getting bowl eligible. We want them to get bowl eligible so we can bet on Middle Tennessee State in bowl season one last time to bring that Monmouth connection full circle. Give me Middle Tennessee State -4 for game number 2. 2 games, both favorites by 4.
All right. Leaning on the group of 5, our panel is so far. I love the spot. This is pretty cool. Let me see. So the hand that Aoki has in the World Series of Poker telecast, Ace King offsuit. Oh, I think the hand's over. Did she win? I don't even know if she won. Oh well. Let's go on to my picks. Andy, keep me posted on the World Series of Poker scenario. So anyway, here's what I have for Week 12. As I've been saying, I've been having a tough time even getting any kind of traction in college football. So we'll give it a try one more time. But sometimes I think less is more when it comes to taking the picks. So I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to go with some basic stuff here. So game number 1. I thought that Andy and John, either Andy or John, would have this pick by now, so I'll do it on their behalf. I think we'll all have it off behind the scenes, if not for this contest. So we're gonna go Utah giving 3.5 against Oregon. Yes, it is tricky when they're favored in this spot, but maybe it's saying that the books have kind of also had enough of Oregon and they're not buying into them either. So Utah is playing better. I always regard them as a pretty solid defense, well-coached team. So I think we're gonna have they will take care of business. They are home. They're in Salt Lake City, and that crowd can be really feisty there. It's a good home field advantage. So I'm gonna take the home team here in a game that's gonna be on ABC. I mean, I remember Jaden Daniels having a whale of a game on ABC when they had a Saturday night game and Herbie and Fowler were in the building. That was a good spot. So I figure that Pac-12 teams tend to respond in this spot. The only time I really saw a Pac-12 team not respond in that kind of spot was Arizona against UCLA some years back. That was rough. But other than that, it's really been a good spot for the Pac-12 whenever they get that assignment on ABC. So we'll see. Utah -3.5 to start game 1. Game 2, this is a principle play, and the principle is never bet on Steve Adazio with a spread, ever. So Hawaii at home getting 2, I love it. I don't know how good Hawaii actually is. I don't care. Hawaii's always pesky at home. We're gonna we're gonna go Hawaii +2 in game number 2 to go with Utah -3.5 for our Week 12 college picks. Okay, so that now leads us into, let me see. We had John, we had me, we had Andy. That leaves us with Ron. Ron, it's all yours for Week 12. Let's hear your picks.
All right. Pick number 1. I'm taking Virginia +14.5 on the road against Pitt. Like I said before, they kind of held Armstrong out last week to prepare for this game, which is for control of the ACC Coastal. And I know Pitt is the little girl with the curl, but I've watched their games this year. Their defense isn't that good. I think Virginia keeps it close. Pitt might win in the end, but 14.5 is a big number for a Pitt team who's been playing very iffy the past couple of weeks. So I'll take Virginia +14.5. And the second game, John mentioned it as a bonus pick, but I'm taking North Texas -10.5 against FIU. If you've read the stuff that came out this week from FIU and Butch Jones, basically, the story came out that he was stepping down, and it was an amicable, situation there. And then on the same day, he does like an interview with some outlet, and he basically just tore the school to shreds and the athletic department to shreds, saying that they use they've used helmets from other programs, like the helmet shells from other programs. The uniforms are 7 years old. Wow. They're not putting any money into it. It's one of the worst run schools that he's ever seen. So I think that whole situation is just a disaster. It's just it's blown up in their face. So I would take any team playing them this week, no matter what the spread was. So I'll take North Texas -10.5 and Virginia +14.5.
Well, I think those are great calls, Ron. So good luck to your picks as well. Let me just bring it back for a second. So Butch Davis, saying stuff like that. You talk about a guy who used to coach in Miami. Maybe there's something to that, but it sounds like sour grapes to me, because it seems like he's probably just facing the reality on the wall, and things are starting to really get a little sour for him. So I want to close with this, because I believe we'll be off. I'm pretty sure we're going to take next week off, so I just want to get your guys' final thoughts and see what you guys were planning for Thanksgiving. So let me see if I can get this to work well. Come on. There we go. That's close enough. That's not too bad. But yeah, fellas, it's good to see you all again. What do you all have planned as far as the holiday? I'll let anyone take lead on this. Maybe I'll start with John. But obviously the traditions will be in effect. The slate on Thanksgiving should be okay. I did think that Raider game has fallen off. It would look like a better game at the beginning of the season, like Raiders Cowboys. But it could be good. What's your thought, John?
Yeah, whatever the games are on Thanksgiving, we'll be watching. Obviously we wish the matchup. Well, Bears and Lions could be pretty ugly, especially now if Goff is not playing. You might see Tim Boyle starting at quarterback, who actually went to a high school that was literally like 2 miles from where I live. Yeah. So that should be interesting if he ends up playing. But Thanksgiving it's football on Thanksgiving. You're spending time with family. There's going to be 2 college games that day. There's a Mountain West game in the middle of the afternoon. So we will be into it. In terms of like plans, I have nothing like no big travel. I was just spending time with immediate family for that day. So it should be fun times. I'll just throw in, like, when Ron was talking about the FIU game, I did read that article. It was on the Action Network, and it was he just destroyed the program. That was crazy. But like, we're heading into bowl season. Like, if I was the sports czar of the world, I would make it so like every single team played a bowl game. So you could get like an FIU versus UConn bowl game, because like, why not? Like, most of these games they're 99% of them are exhibitions anyway. Why not get every team an extra game? That would be my contribution to, or one of the things I do. Get every team a bowl game, and then you could just see the people pissed off on Twitter. Oh, there's too many bowl games. Why is this a bowl game? Well, you know what? I would appreciate, a UMass and Bowling Green matchup on December 19th. Sign me up. I'm in for that.
All right, I'm good with that. I mean, we're pretty close to that at any rate, so I'm down with it. More football is good for me, so I'm down with that too. So, Andy, your look ahead to the next week or so. What do you have on your mind as we head toward this Thanksgiving break?
Prime rib or turkey on
Ooh, are you coming down to California? Are you coming back down again?
Yeah, I'll be down visiting my mom down in Palm Desert.
Okay.
We do restaurant for the board would hate us for it, but we go out for a restaurant for the meal, and then go to like one of her friend's house for dessert or another meal. But two of us, so it's easy just to go to a restaurant, and then get some golf in and all that other stuff. So it'll be a good time. I can't believe it's already Thanksgiving next week, but to piggyback on if I was sports czar or college football czar, I think we've already said it. We say it every year, but we'll say it again when it comes to bowl season. Like what they usually do because of all the affiliates and the sponsors, it's like we're going to see like the non-group, we're going to see the non-Power 5 or what the group of 5 teams play each other. So we'll get like 9-3 Sun Belt versus 9-3 Conference USA, and we'll get 10-2 Sun Belt versus, well, there'll be no like great MAC record because they were all bad out of conference, but you know what I mean. We're gonna get 10-2 this versus 9-3 that, and then on the other side, we always gonna get 7-5 ACC versus 7-5 SEC, or 6-6 Pac-12 versus 7-5 Big Ten. I just want to mix it all together. I want to see 7-5 Pac-12 go up against 10-2 Conference USA. I want to see, 9-3 Sun Belt versus 7-5 ACC, because we're so sick of seeing 7-5 Pooh versus 7-5 Pooh. We got to mix it together. That's what bowl season's all about.
Yeah.
And like last year, we saw what Coastal play BYU with some, but like we don't want to see that. We want to see let Coastal Carolina. I know McCall might be out for the year, but throw that 10-1 or 11-1 Coastal Carolina against Minnesota or something like that. Like, why not? Because instead we're gonna see Minnesota versus like NC State or something like that.
Yeah.
Like we here.
You're right. I think the variety would be most appreciated by us, who follow the sport all year long. But it's just too bad that folks at the top are so uncreative. But Ron, I'll give it to you for final thoughts. And then what are you looking forward to as we head into Thanksgiving week?
Yeah, part of the reason why I've been able to get on here is we've been redoing our kitchen since the beginning of September.
Oh, wow.
And it just became like workable. This past weekend, we had our plumber come and hook everything up, so it'll be a blessing to be able to use the kitchen to make actual food, because if I'm a big barbecue guy, I like to grill. If I never grill again in my life, it'll be too soon. I'm so sick of it. And so I look forward to that, and I'll piggyback off of what John and Andy said. If I had my druthers, if I could change something about college football, just expand the fucking playoff, please. Get away from the 4 teams. I don't care what you make it. You think 12 is too big, put it at 8. I mean, put it at 6. Do something else, just to keep us interested. Like I said, I don't care what it is. Expand the playoff. I mean, it just makes too much sense. And if the Rose Bowl's the one group holding it up, we'll just have the fucking Rose Bowl then, and take them out of the equation, or have 2 games at the Rose Bowl. They could keep their traditional matchup, whoever it is. And, they could be in the mix for a second game, with the semifinal or final, however they figure it out. But I mean, get it done because, you know, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, you know, if Notre Dame gets in this year, I mean, eventually it's going to drive away the casual fans. I know it doesn't seem that way because the ratings have been so good, but
getting close.
It's such a simple solution.
Yeah.
You know, just expand it and, you know, take out one of those fucking non-conference games. You know, the whole SEC is playing New Mexico State, it seems like, in November. You know, so just take that game out and take it from there. You know, that's my one wish for college football.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was better with two teams back in the day with BCS. Now, I mean, in retrospect, because it's just so little drama. Like, it's like the same 3 or 4 teams every year. Like, it feels like Ohio State, Alabama, and who's the other thing? Like, it used to be Clemson, and it was like the 3 of them were in there automatically. It was just a matter of who gets that 4th one. So I'm all for that, Ron. They do need to expand the playoff. You know, I think I've had enough. All right, I guess that's it, everybody. So thank you so much, everyone. Like, I really appreciate your continued contributions to the segment, to the show and the series. And I'm hoping you all have great picks this weekend. And next weekend, as we do the picks on the website. Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody. I really hope all the best and hope everything goes well for you the next couple weeks.
All right.
Nice to see you. Thanksgiving, guys. Good luck, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks so much. Good luck.
Good luck, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
On the bets.
Hey, congrats on the new job, Andy.
What I do?
Congrats on the new job.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, really? I didn't hear about this. Andy, way to go, man. Oh, gosh, what a relief.
Start next Monday.
Okay.
Old place. We got BF Chang's takeout today.
Beauty. Oh, man, you earned that. I know how much of a struggle that was for you, so I'm happy
it's
for you.
It's real, not to get too deep, but as you get older, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Woo! I mean, we're all... we spend 8 hours a day at this place. You gotta...
For sure. Kudos to you, my friend. That's awesome. So, all right. So in that case, good night, everybody, and thank you. And see you around.
All right, peace.
Bye, everybody.
Good luck.
Good luck, everyone. Yeah, super great. That's great, Andy. That's awesome. So, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. It was a fairly long show tonight, but I think it was worth it. So, good luck, everyone. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving as well. We'll be back on this program in about 2 weeks. So until then, be safe, everyone. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving week next week. Enjoy all the games, and good luck to all your picks as well. My name is Dave Medina. I hope you've enjoyed this program as well. If you're looking for all of our past episodes, particularly from football, we have those for you at DITCOW.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at DITCOW. Our website is DITCOW.com, or look for Dave in the City Out West if you haven't subscribed to this program already. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on all the podcast players. We look forward to catching you on the podcast if you are watching us here on YouTube tonight. So have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody, once again, and we'll see you next time.